Hello, welcome to this week's yoga session. Today we'll be taking a closer look at fascia and specifically how to hydrate the fascia, how to keep it hydrated. So the fascia is the connective tissue that holds everything in place. It runs through the muscles as well as around the muscles. It turns into ligaments, into tendons, attaches to bone or becomes bone. It connects the bones to the muscles, to ligaments, to tendons, to the cartilage. It's what holds every part of your body, the internal organs. It's the network that holds everything in place. And it also is the network that harnesses the energy of the muscles and uses that to move parts of the body, sometimes that are further away. Sometimes I'll refer to this as the entire fascial net. Everything is connected to every part of this net, like a hammock. Now, when the fascia becomes dehydrated, which happens naturally over time as we age, instead of being kind of a slippery substance, it becomes sticky, and then eventually it starts to form adhesions, and you get little peptide bonds, and the fascia gets stuck together. Glued together, and when this happens we lose range of motion, and we also lose proprioception. The fascia is one of the highest, most innervated areas of the body in terms of the nervous system, and it is the movement of the fascia and sensations coming from the fascia that allow the body to know where it is and what it's doing in space, and helps with balance and a variety of other aspects. So keeping the fascia hydrated is critical, and there's a couple components to that. One is drinking plenty of water, but that's not enough. All that does is get the water into the blood. We still need to get that fluid from the blood to the fascia, and then we still need to move it into and through the fascia. So drinking water is the first step. The second step is yawning. And yawning releases nitric oxide, opens up the capillary beds, and brings the fluid into contact with the fascia. And then the third step is to move the fascia, to stretch it, contract it, expand it, and to get a variety of movement through the fascia. And that is what actually helps to move the fluid around the fascia into and through the fascial network. So let's take a moment just to sit comfortably. Reach the sit bones back, tilt the pelvis forward, lengthen up through the spine, broaden and open. Release the shoulder blades down the back as you float the heart. Close your eyes, and then take just a few moments to notice your breathing. Now, throughout today's class, anytime you have an opportunity to yawn, don't pass it by. Don't suppress it. One of the ways that you'll know when you've had a yawn that has been successful in releasing nitric oxide is that you will start to see or feel your eyes becoming more fluid, watering, maybe even crying a little bit, and also the salivary tracts begin to become more active. You may have more saliva in the mouth. So closing your eyes without squeezing them shut. Breathing consciously, deliberately, into the lower abdomen, into the back, low back, mid back, maybe even upper back. And anytime you sense an opportunity to yawn, see if you can just recognize it and convert that into a beautiful yawn. Now, as you're doing this, just float your head around to the left or to the right. And then gently, slowly, lazily moving your head around. As you do this, let the face release and relax, the jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth, the eyes, the eyeballs. Take 4 or 5 more breaths. Yawning is one of the healthiest things you can do. Among other things, it releases oxytocin. Triggers the attention network in the nervous system to help you pay more attention, to focus more clearly. It also releases opiates. And the more you yawn, the easier it becomes to yawn. So even if you have a hard time yawning because you've been suppressing it for so long, if you just practice it a little bit, gradually it'll become easier and easier, and you can yawn almost any time on command. Now let's take a look at some how to take that and move it through the body. Okay? So yawning helps to bring the fluid through the blood into the capillary beds, get it to the fascia. Now how do we move it through the fascia? So to access the fascial net, I'm going to hold the arm out, and then I'm going to drop the muscles and float the bones. So the muscles drop, the bones float, and then I expand a little bit. Another way to think about this is a very kind of lazy, heavy feeling in the arm, even as you're expanding. If you expand too much, you'll lose that heaviness. Now once you expand a little bit, you may start to get a little tingling sensation, and that's what we're looking for. Minimize it until it's very subtle, and then begin to move it around by moving your fingers, your wrists, your shoulder blades, your chest. And then you might even be able to move it around through the back or the chest into the other arm. Try not to think too much. Instead, try to focus on paying more attention to the sensations and then moving the sensation through the body. When you get good at doing that, you'll notice that that also becomes an effective trigger for yawning. There's a reason that when an animal that's been sleeping for a long period of time wakes up, the very first thing they tend to do is yawn, and they pandiculate. Now pandiculation is composed of several key ingredients. One is expansion, one is contraction, okay? And then there is a movement. And the source of the movement is not the cerebral cortex. We don't think our way through a pandiculation. It comes from a much deeper source. So it's an instinctive, an emergent phenomenon. Okay? When you watch a kid waking up, before they've even woken up completely and they start to stretch, they aren't thinking about how they're doing it. They aren't thinking, okay, I'm going to engage my shoulder blade and push through the palm. They're just doing it without thinking. So there's an unconscious aspect to it. We aren't controlling the pandiculation. And then the fourth thing is the breath. When we link breath into it, it becomes more powerful. So breathing has an effect on how your body reacts to pandiculation. So let's start repeating one more time with the lazy pandiculation. Here we emphasize the relaxation, okay, and expansion. Very little contraction. So drop the contraction. That's what I mean when I say let the muscles get heavy or drop the muscles. Let the muscles relax so that it's almost entirely expansion without any contraction. And then just create some sensation, then begin to move it around the arms and through the shoulders and then to the back or the chest. And then relax. Now, at the other extreme, we can emphasize contraction. Okay? One way to think about that is to think about stiffening. So now, if I bring my arms up overhead and I stiffen my whole body, and then and I stretch, but I keep a contraction. So all the muscles hugging the bone now. Instead of dropping and hanging from the bones, the muscles grip the bones. I stiffen up, and then I move. And now once again, I try and create sensation. I move the sensations through the body. Use your whole body, your ribs, your shoulder blades, your fingers, your wrists. And coming back to center. So now, try and trigger a yawn as you're doing that. You may have already yawned a few times, but try it again. And you're going to now balance it. So somewhere between lazy and stiff, somewhere in between. You're expanding, but you're also contracting a little bit, and that creates this stiffness. But make it a little bit more in the middle. Now, as you move around, imagine you're just waking up from a nap, and you're 6 years old. See if you can convert that into a yawn. And so this is the perfect way to hydrate fascia, the yawning combined with these movements where we move energy through the fascial network. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's move into a twist now. Take your right hand, reach behind, cross the left hand over. Lift, expand, rotate, and then breathing. If you're familiar with the complete back breath, that's a nice way to breathe in this, or any type of complete breath. Couple more breaths on the first side. Coming back to center, switching sides, take the left hand behind, cross the right hand. Lift, broaden, expand, and rotate. Breathing into that. Remember, if you trigger a yawn, just ease up on the yoga for a few moments and focus on yawning well. One more breath. And coming back to center. Good. Now, when I'm trying to yawn while I'm doing yoga, one of the things you'll notice is that if you are pushing into the sensation strongly and have a steady, fixed position, it suppresses the instinct to yawn. If you create more subtle sensation and then let the sensation move through the body slowly, that helps to trigger yawning. So in your twist, let's try again. Take the right hand behind, cross the left hand, lift, expand, rotate, but this time don't rotate as far, just enough that you start to feel a little bit of sensation, and then staying in the pose, but just with your shoulders and your ribs, moving your ribs in a circle, moving your shoulder blades or your chest. Try to create delicate sensations, move them through the body in such a way that you can trigger a nice yawn. And then switching sides. Once again, coming into a more subtle expression of the pose, and then playing with the ribs, the shoulder blades, the chest, breathing in slowly, tightening the throat, and yawning. Now, yawning in different positions can help move and hydrate different areas of the fascial network. So for instance, we have a train, a connection of fascial lines. They connect the muscles that are involved in twisting. So if we're in a twisted pose and we yawn in the twisted pose, we're really helping to hydrate the spiral line of fascia. There's also the superficial front line, the superficial back line, the deep front line, and then there's 10,000 other fascial lines for any type of movement where you have more than one muscle involved. Those muscles have to work together, and there's a fascial net that connects, a part of the net, a subset of the fascial net that connects those particular muscles together. So when I do complex movements, I'm stimulating, stretching, moving, sending energy or prana through different areas. For instance, when I'm doing this with my arms and shoulders, I'm getting a lot more effect in this arm, shoulder, chest, and back, very little on my left foot. Okay, so every movement moves fascia, energy, prana through different parts of the body. So the greater the variety, the better. Now we're going to practice pandiculating laying down for just a moment. I'll demonstrate first, and then I'll invite you to try it. And then when we finish, at the end of the class, when we finish Shavasana, as we come out, we'll take a few minutes to play with this again. Let me demonstrate. This is how I usually wake up in the morning, especially if I have the luxury of not having to get right out of bed. I'll set my alarm for 10-15 minutes before I actually have to get out of bed. So when the alarm goes off, I start with just the shoulders and the hips, and I might stiffen. And then maybe move the shoulders, move the hips. I might press the kidneys down or arch them off the floor. And then sometimes just that is enough to trigger a deep breath or even a yawn. Then I take a moment to relax. Relaxing is important. It's during the relaxation that prana can move through the muscles more freely, through the fascia that you've been stretching and moving. Then I bring the arms up and out a little bit, and now I go with a very lazy pandiculation. I let the muscles drop away from the bones. I expand just enough to pick up a little sensation, and then I lazily move that around, and now I begin to use my legs as well. I might bring one knee into my chest or roll side to side. But again, a very lazy feel. Again, anytime I sense the potential to yawn, I try to make good use of that. Then I take just a moment to relax again. Then on the next repetition, I stiffen, and now hugging or gripping the bones, so the muscles hugging the bones, I stiffen up a little bit. And I roll, and I bring knee into my chest or extend the leg away. Again, not thinking. Using the whole body, fingers, toes. Then I take one more opportunity to rest. I take a few breaths here, just relaxing. And then when I'm ready, I roll to the side and come out of bed. So if you haven't already, give that a try. Lay on your back in Shavasana. Imagine that you've been sleeping all night. And then as you wake up, just stiffen slightly through your core. Just a little bit. And then keeping that stiffness, move one shoulder and then the other, or press down with the low back or the mid back or the upper back into the floor, or arch here, or shift the hips here. And see if you can create a little sensation, just moving the core, the shoulder blades, the hips, engaging the muscles in the back or the abdomen. And then see if that helps you to take a deeper breath all the way up into your chest and shoulders, maybe even yawn. Now take a breath or two and just melt into the flow. Now, to be able to really let go in the morning, I use my snooze. So on my alarm, I set the snooze button, and that way I don't have to worry about falling asleep. I can just let go because I know that the alarm will catch me if I do fall asleep. Now this time, allow the arms and the legs to participate. So once again, begin to float the arms out, but now lazy, lyrical. Expand just enough to get a little delicate sensation, and then playing with your wrists, your fingers, your shoulders, your shoulder blades. Now begin to let the legs join in a little bit. Lift one leg and pull one knee in towards you slightly, even as you're stretching through the arms and rolling the shoulders. And again, yawning at every opportunity. Switching legs, doing it without thinking. Arching, rolling, but lazy. Take a breath or two. And then another mini Shavasana. 3 or 4 breaths. Use your exhale just to release everything into the floor. Or if you're in bed, releasing everything into the bed. Letting go. Now, when you are ready to begin the transition to get ready to get out of bed, you begin to emphasize the contractive element. So we begin to stiffen. Take your muscles and hold the bones with the muscles. Hug the bones. And then as you do that, begin to stretch. And roll the shoulders and the hips. Pull the knee, one knee into your chest tight and expand it away. And then switch sides. And again, do this without thinking. Let the movements be organic, emergent. Again, if there's an opportunity to yawn, get out of the way, yawn, and then come back to what you're doing. Take another miniature Shavasana. 3 or 4 breaths. Drop the exhale. And then roll to one side and come back up to a comfortable seated position. So that's how I start my day out most days, and usually by the time I've done that, I have tears running down my face. I'm wide awake, and I have a cocktail running through my bloodstream of nitric oxide, oxytocin, which makes us feel connected to life in the universe, opiate molecules that make you feel good and warm. And also the fascia has been moved, stretched, opened, released, and hydrated. And when I get out of bed, I feel 20 years younger. If I don't do that and I get out of bed, I feel 20 years older for the first hour until things loosen up again. So this is why most animals, when they wake up from a nap, that's what they do. They yawn and they stretch and they move. And those types of movements that they're doing are actually pandiculation, contraction and expansion. Okay. Let's come to our hands and knees, cat-cow. Throughout the rest of the class, again, try not to suppress any urges to yawn. Sometimes I might yawn 20 or 30 times in a yoga practice. Improvise. Reposition your hands, add a little asymmetry. And again, create sensation, move the sensation through the body. Now as you're doing that, see if you can use that to trigger a yawn. Try different positions with your hands. 3 or 4 more breaths. Come back to center. Tuck the toes under. Walk your hands in close to your knees. Lift the knees. And then come into a standing forward bend. Hands on your thighs. If you have low back issues or tight hamstrings, just coming up and letting your hands carry some of your weight. If you prefer and it feels okay, you're welcome to hang and release into a deeper stretch. Now, as you're doing that, bend the left knee a little more. Partially straighten the right leg, but not completely straight. Until you feel a stretch in the back of the right leg. And if you feel any sensation in the back of the right knee, it means you straighten the leg too much. Keep the knee bent just enough that the stretch stays in the muscle. Switch sides. Go side to side. Now remember, fascia likes movement, slow, delicate sensations moving through the body. So let's focus just on the legs now. Both knees bent a little bit, sinking the belly, lifting the tailbone, and then make these sensations in the back of your legs very, very subtle. And now just move the sensations by bending and straightening the knees a little, or lifting one heel and setting it down, or twisting to the left or to the right with your upper body a little bit. Focus on the sensation and try to move the sensation around slowly and delicately. And as you do that, see if you can yawn again. Yeah. And then when you're ready, come back to center and roll up, buckle the knees, slip the hips under you as you come back upright. Standing with your feet hip width, outer edges parallel. Now pandiculating one more time. Start with a lazy pandiculation. Float the arms out, drop the muscles, float the bones, expand, but without losing that looseness in the muscles. So your muscles should be more like jello, flopping around. And then lift one heel and tilt and twist and shift sides. And then add a little twist, a little dynamic twist. Not trying to increase range of motion, just trying to create healthy, pleasant sensations in the fascial nerve. And then coming back to center. Step your feet in a little closer. Vini Yoga Sun Salutation. From prayer, when you're ready, on an inhale, sweep overhead. On the exhale, reach the hips back. Drop your hands to your thighs and come down part way, or release all the way if you prefer. Now buckle the knees, get your hips underneath you as you're coming up. Float the arms overhead as you finish breathing in. Now follow your own rhythm of breathing. On the inhale, roll up, buckle the knees, stack the vertebra, stretch overhead. On the exhale, release into your forward bend. 5 or 10 more repetitions. Try not to rush your breathing. Couple more repetitions. On your next overhead stretch, hold. And then stretch out through the side. Lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs. One more time. A little bit of a back bend. Supported forward bend, hands on thighs or shins. Lengthen the spine. Sink the belly, lift the tailbone. Stay there or work your way down into a forward bend. Stretch the exhale into a sigh. 2 or 3 breaths. And roll back up to standing. So, continuing along this line, we'll start with chair pose. And to start with chair pose, we're going to do it very delicately, and then we're going to move and play and try and trigger a yawn. And then after we've yawned, then those of you that want to work a little harder, sink in and begin to work into the pose more strongly. Float the arms overhead. Bend the knees slightly, take the hips back slightly, tilt forward slightly. Pull the shoulders back a little bit. Now, ease up until any sensations you're feeling are 10%. Just a subtle, conscious but not intense. And then lift one heel and move your shoulders and shoulder blades and arms around, then lift the other heel. As you're doing that, see if you can squeeze out a yawn or two. And then if you want to work harder after you've yawned, then begin to reach your hips further back, further down. Bring the shoulders back behind the ears. 3 or 4 breaths. One more breath. And then on an inhale, stretch up, float the arms down. Supported forward bend. Wait until you feel the low back release. And then if you want to work your way further, breathe deep, stretch the exhale. One more breath. And bend the knees, roll back up. One more time. Float the arms. Come into a shallow pose. Try and do it even more delicately. The more delicate the sensations, the more likely they are to trigger yawning. And then those of you that want to work, drop down into the pose. 5 or 6 more breaths. Try to expand the front. Contract the muscles in the back of your body, especially the upper back, by bringing the shoulders back, drawing the shoulder blades down, lifting the chest forward and up. A couple more breaths. Now come out 90% of the way, and then pandiculate now. This is particularly good after you've worked muscles strongly to prevent getting sore, helping to get prana moving back through the muscles. Supported forward bend, and staying there or releasing into a full forward bend. 2 or 3 breaths. And then rolling back up to standing. Virabhadrasana 2. Stepping wide. And then rotating, turn your left foot out 90 degrees, lift the right heel, take it wide, set it down, and then bend the left knee. Stop when your knee is directly above your heel. And then decide if this is too easy. And if it is, widen your stance, and then once again bring the knee directly over your heel. Now square up your shoulders with your hips. Try not to lean out over the left leg. Straighten the back leg, strengthen the back leg. If you know how to spiral either leg or both legs, go ahead and spiral them. Now, the legs in this pose are very dynamic and are core. Lifting the chest, drawing the navel in, sinking the tailbone, drawing the sides in, lifting the chest. Then let the arms float. Now, if the arms start to get tired, use the muscles to hug the bones. And sometimes that's all you need to do in order to not feel like you're working quite so hard. It's counterintuitive, but working a little harder feels easier. The arms feel lighter. Now, while you're here, with your upper body, begin to pandiculate. And then, once again, come back into classic pose. 2 or 3 more breaths. Second side. Turn the right foot out. Lift the left heel, take it wide, set it down. Bend the right knee. If that's easy, walk wider, lunge deeper. If you were struggling, close up your stance on the second side. Straighten the back leg, strengthen the back leg, sink into that back hip socket. Square up shoulders, ribs, and hips. Spiral both legs if you remember how. Sink the tailbone, lift the chest, firm up the abdomen, draw the sides in, float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn your head, gaze out over the right fingertips. Now stiffen the arms slightly, and if you do it just the right amount, you minimize the perception of effort. If you let your arms get heavy, you'll feel kind of an achy sensation. If you firm them up a little bit, it becomes easier. If you firm them up too much, it becomes hard again. So just the right firmness that it maximizes your feeling of strength. Now pandiculate with the upper body. Keep working the legs. And then add the arms back in. Draw the abdomen in, lift the chest, sink the tailbone. Stiffen the arms a little, 2 or 3 breaths. And then a forward bend. Feet wide, turn pigeon-toed. can either support weight with hands on your legs or reach for the floor. Keep both legs straight and just shift your hips a little left, a little right. They won't move much, but just enough that you can feel the different sensations that are available to you. Now if you bend one knee, you'll have more freedom to move laterally. So bend your left knee a little bit and then just shift your hips to the left. Keep the right leg straight. And just explore what sensations are available to you. Use your whole body, including your shoulders and your arms and your hands. Come back to center, straighten the left leg, bend the right knee, move your hips to the right. And then once again, shifting around with your whole body, keeping the left leg straight. Whatever sensations you are creating, make sure they're healthy and pleasant. Come back to symmetry. Both legs straight. Then both knees bent a little. And sink between your thighs. Lift one heel, set it down. Lift the other heel, set it down. Maybe bounce ever so slightly with the hips. Shift forward and backward, left and right. And then coming down to the floor. Coming to your hands and knees. Take your blanket and roll it up tightly from one end to the other, or if you're using a custom roller, take a moment to set that up. Those of you using a blanket or that are new to this, remember you can make this as easy as you want by unrolling the blanket and making it smaller, or rolling it up all the way to make it larger. The blanket will be positioned underneath the upper part of the shoulder blades. So below the top of your shoulder, but in the center or higher of the shoulder blades. Arms are extended. You can support your head, or you can extend or bend the elbows. Knees can be bent or straight. Find a position that you can relax into, and if you can't, unroll your blanket as much as you need to make that so. Take a breath or two here. Now we're going to make our first adjustment, and you're just going to move half an inch, not much. Lift your hips, and then with your feet push yourself over the top of the roller half an inch. Set the hips down and then relax. And if this feels a little different, that's all we're looking for. The smallest movement in terms of rolling over the roller that gives us access to new sensations. Take a breath or two. And then reposition, pushing yourself over the roller another inch. And again, shifting, slowly working your way down the length of your spine until eventually in 3 or 4 minutes the roller reaches your hips. Go for 2 more minutes. If you finished early, go back and start over. Mm. 10 or 15 breaths to finish up. When you're finished, lift the hips, remove the roller, set the hips down, and then bring one knee and then both knees into your chest, rock side to side, and then hug the knees in. Taking a few moments to release the low back, let it decompress. Bring your feet back to the floor for a moment. So now we're going to put the roller back under us, but this time make it half or 2/3 the size. So make it just a little bit easier. Easy enough that you can really relax when you're working on it, where you aren't having to protect yourself. And we're going to be pandiculating on the back roll. Position the roller in the central area of the shoulder blades, or even the lower shoulder blades. And when you lower your head should reach the ground without any strain. You can interlace your fingers behind your neck, or you can interlace your fingers just above the crown of your head. Let the elbows drop towards the floor. Bend both knees. Now the movement is going to be a twist with the knees falling to the left. Combined with a side stretch, you're going to slide your elbows, keeping your elbows close to the floor, slide your elbows to the right. Imagine touching your right elbow to your heel. Don't try to do that. That's just kind of a way to make sense of the movement. Now, come back to center. Start sliding your elbows to the left and let your knees drop to the right. And then come back to center. Now we'll add a leg movement. Let your knees swing to the left, slide your upper body to the right, just as you had done before. And then, after you finish twisting, pull the right knee into your chest and stiffen your abdominal core. Your hips and your low back and your belly stiffen, and then with your arms pandiculate. Oh, moving the shoulders, moving the arms around. Good. Now come back to center. Interlace your fingers. Let your knees fall to the right. Slide your elbows to the left. Bring the left knee in, and with your arms pandiculate. Stiffen the core. Stretch, pandiculate. Oh, and come back to center. Now, if you remember, a pandiculation is a emergent phenomenon. It's not something you think your way through. If you're thinking your way through it, you won't get the
involvement of the nervous system and the endocrine system. So now that you have that movement in muscle memory, do it without thinking. Roll the knees to the left, slide the upper body to the right, pull one knee up, and stretch and expand like a little kid waking up. Don't think. Try and rely on instinct, intuition, and sensation. Switch sides. And then removing the blanket, hugging both knees in, rock side to side. And then coming onto your stomach
for Cobra. We'll do one Cobra, one down dog, and this will be our last work for today's class. Forehead touching the floor, hands well behind the shoulders. Shrug the shoulders, lift the shoulders, draw the shoulder blades together, draw them down the back until the chest starts to lift. Keep the back of the neck long. Press the tops of the feet down, reach the chest forward, draw the shoulder blades down the back, broaden the shoulder girdle. Now take a few breaths. If you want to stay here a little longer, take your time. Those of you that are ready to transition to down dog, you can get a head start. Down dog will be our last work for today. 5 or 10 breaths. Longer, hold. If you're ready to slow down, bring your right knee forward. Slide the left leg back. Pigeon pose. Breathe deep, stretch the exhale into a sigh. Adjust so there's no torque in the knee joint, no sensation in the joint. Instead, adjust until you create healthy, pleasant sensations in the muscles of the hips, outer thigh, and buttocks. Then deepen the breath, stretch the exhale into a sigh. Couple more breaths. Switching sides. If you want to move through down dog, you can. This time the left knee will be leading, coming forward, and the right leg will work its way back. Start with a healthy stretching sensation. To start with, delicate. And then if the muscles begin to relax, work your way deeper into the stretch. 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 more breaths on the second side. Again, breathing deep. Melting into the exhale.
breath or two to finish.
And then coming on to your back. And we'll be working with a little twist and then Shavasana. And in the twist, I'll invite you to pandiculate while you're in the twisted position. This is similar to what we did on the back roll.
Bend your knees and either keep your feet on the floor or lift your feet off the floor and bring the knees in a little closer to you, either way. And then roll your knees to the left, twist to the right, and then pull the right knee into your chest, not with your hands, but with your core, and pandiculate with your shoulders and your arms, and then extend through the right leg and then pull it in again. And then relax for a breath or two into the twist. Switching sides. Feet on the floor or knees closer to your chest. Roll the knees to the right, twist to the left. And then pandiculate a little bit. Pull that left knee in and then reach it away. And then do it without thinking. Stiffening, expanding, contracting. Relaxing into the twist. Take a breath or two. Hug both knees, rock side to side. And then taking a moment to get comfortable for Shavasana. Check your body for symmetry. Legs spread evenly. Hands even. And then we're going to try and lengthen the spine as we lay down. So with your hands, grab the base of your neck and then gently pull your head away from your shoulder blades so that the back of your neck is long. And then keep pulling gently as you set the back of the neck on the floor. Your chin will be a little closer to your chest. If that's not completely comfortable, adjust just enough that you can relax comfortably. Breathing diaphragmatically now. Letting the chest and shoulders become perfectly still. Just the belly expanding as you breathe in, sinking as you breathe out. Relaxing your face, your neck, your shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. Feet, ankles, calves, knees, and thighs. Loosen hips, relax the buttocks. Take a breath or two. Letting the exhale fall away with a sigh. Allow the breath to slow down comfortably. Just enough that it has a calming effect on the nervous system. Relax the feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees and thighs. Loosen hips, relax the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. The back of your neck and soften the throat. Jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. With each exhalation, letting your body fall away, melting into the earth beneath. Breathe in a little deeper. Allow the breath to move into the belly, the ribs, and then up into the chest a little bit. Then stiffen your core and move your shoulders ever so slightly, your hips, maybe even your legs slightly, but mainly the shoulders and the hips and the core. And then relax for a breath or two. Now a lazy pandiculation. Float the arms out, slightly higher than the shoulders, elbows bent. And then as lazily as you're able, lengthen one leg or the other as you pandiculate with your upper body. You can bend one knee and twist a little. Keep it lazy. See if you can use these delicate sensations, moving them just the right way through the body that it induces yawning. And then another mini Shavasana. 5 or 10 breaths, diaphragmatic breathing. And then see if you can yawn. And as part of the yawn, stiffen your body a little bit. And then using your legs, bending, pulling knee into your chest, lengthening one leg or the other, twisting. With a little bit more stiffness, a little bit more contraction, even as you're expanding. And see if you can do that in a way to trigger more yawning. When you're ready, roll to one side. And then pushing up to a comfortable seated position. So this is a little ritual I go through almost every morning when I wake up and I'm getting ready to get out of bed. I just take about 10 minutes to make that transition, and then I enjoy the benefits of that throughout the rest of the day, especially the first hour of the day, where I feel young and healthy and loose and a lot of energy moving through my body, as opposed to the way I feel normally if I don't do that, if I just get out of bed and take a shower and then try to hit the world running. I also will do it in the middle of the night if I wake up and I can't go back to sleep. I'll do a little bit of that just intuitively, and usually that's all it takes for me to be able to drop back into deep sleep pretty quickly. And then anytime during the day, if I have 10 minutes and I'm not sure what to do with it, just laying down on the floor, or you can do it standing, but laying down has the advantage that when you finish pandiculation, you can relax in Shavasana, and that is where we soak up fresh prana. And you'll notice a increase in benefits if you take that just a couple of minutes when you finish pandiculating to lay in a very expansive, relaxed state, and to enjoy and experience the flow of prana when you're finished. I hope you have a wonderful day and week, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.